So a couple of weeks back, I wrote an article titled "The Best Exercises to Improve Olympic Weightlifting." Basically, I was looking at when there's so many dozens, almost hundreds of exercises around, what can you do to clean more weight, to snatch more weight, to jerk more weight, without messing around with dozens of unnecessary exercises or things that are going to waste your time in the gym. So what I wanted to start with was looking at maybe a combination of some historical literature, biomechanics, my own coaching and training experience, and just breaking down some principles and some exercises that are going to give us the most bang for our buck when it comes to training. And to do so, I want to start with a topic called dynamic correspondence. So if you've not heard of dynamic correspondence before, it's best described as the transfer effect. So it's the degree to which the benefits of one exercise are going to carry over to another. So if we were to look at exercises for weightlifting that have the best dynamic correspondence, then they want to be specific in some way to the movements that we are doing. So they want to be specific in terms of movement type, joint angles, force production, muscles used, to the movement that we are trying to improve. So if you're trying to do a snatch, then hang snatch is very specific, bicep curl not very specific. I think we can all sort of get that concept pretty easily. If we were to sort of take that even further, really simplify that, it would be, for weightlifting, you can conclude that something like long distance running, great example, would have non-existent dynamic correspondence. You could sort of do marathons till you're blue in the face. You're not going to improve your weightlifting through that because it doesn't have a strong correspondence, whereas a hang snatch or a power snatch really does. So this principle can be misapplied. The proper understanding of dynamic correspondence, it prevents you doing nonsense. So if we flash up a little video here. Then you can see exactly the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. Drills that might look similar but don't necessarily have a good dynamic correspondence and aren't proven to work in the literature. So what does this actually have to do with picking the best exercises to improve weightlifting? Well, essentially, we want the majority of the exercises that we pick to be comprised of movements that have a high dynamic correspondence. So it means that everything that we're doing is going to noticeably impact our weightlifting in a positive degree. It's going to have a noticeable impact. It's going to actually move our total in the direction that we want. All right. So which exercises have a good correspondence or a good carryover? Well, the good news is that a lot of this research has been done for us in the past. So if you look at some of the data collected by the Soviets in sort of the 1960s, if you want to read through like a system of multi-year training or a program of multi-year training, which are not page turners, I can't be honest. And basically, if you have to take the work with a pinch of salt, because this was an era in which anabolics were in free use, maybe even more so than today, although that's a debate for another chat, I think. And what essentially the work found is that exercises like snatches, cleans, jerks, power snatches, power cleans, power jerks are given really high priority because they have a huge carryover. Hang snatches and hang cleans pretty similar. Pulls and squats also prioritized for those similar reasons. So what we can know from that is that snatches and close variations, cleans and close variations, jerks and close variations, and then squats and pulls are going to be the mainstay of any weightlifting program. So this is sort of evidenced, honestly, by the programming of sort of every halfway successful weightlifting coach, as well as by the training of most elite lifters who are going to do a lot of cleans, a lot of snatches, and a lot of squats. A lot of squats. And if you've been weightlifting for a while, then none of this should come as a huge surprise to you, right? So snatching, clean and jerking, doing lots of pulls, doing lots of squats, that should all be fairly familiar territory. We know these are exercises that we have to be doing. But what I want to do is give a little bit more specific advice on how to link that to you specifically. So what amounts of these should we be doing for your particular class of an athlete? So for this context, I'm going to divide people into 3 groups. And I think this probably applies to people living in the UK, probably also in the US, and probably across a lot of like Western Europe. So that's going to be our general categories that I would talk about. The first one is going to be people that are technically proficient but are lacking in strength. And I'm happy to throw myself into this category now. You might be quite analytically minded, quite technical. You might really enjoy doing technical drills. So you've got a lot of those technical aspects dialed in, but you might be someone that is generally lacking general strength qualities. You might not have enough leg strength or enough pulling strength. So you are typically that lifter that maybe you can clean 90% of your best front squat, but you know, every single clean basically takes your soul with it. It's just incredibly hard lifting. So for you, you're probably going to want to do more squats and more pulls, probably even a little bit heavier, so heavier on that sort of force velocity spectrum. The bars are moving a little slower, and you're going to dedicate more of your time to that and less of your time to the technical work. If we move to category 2, the second type of lifter is going to be people that have good general strength but poor technique. So these are typically lifters that I see coming from different strength sports, maybe powerlifting, maybe coming from strongman type competition, sometimes even coming from other sports like rugby, where you've done general strength and conditioning but you've not got that technical practice in. So for you, it might mean that your distribution of exercises, that the best exercises for you are spending more time on things like snatches, cleans, even at lower percentages, just really dialing in those technical qualities, and spending a little bit less time on your general strength on the squats and on the pulls. And then your last category, your third category, is someone I'm going to call the all-rounder, which typically, in my experience, is CrossFit athletes. Is people coming from CrossFit that have experienced that. You've usually got a good all-round base for athleticism. You usually have acceptable weightlifting technique, but it's not perfect. There are still errors and things to correct. And you usually have decent levels of strength across a broad sort of domain of movements, but nothing specifically geared to weightlifting. So your squat might need to go up a bit. Your pulls might need to go up a bit. So for you, your program is going to be a bit more balanced, and the best exercises for you might be a sort of relatively balanced distribution of squats, pulls, snatches, cleans, and technical variations. Guys, I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has sort of cleared some of that confusion up, that you know the essential exercises, the categories that you should be doing, and that the main thing that's going to vary person to person is the amount of each of those that you do rather than the exercises themselves. For the most part, for most sort of beginner, intermediate, even late intermediate lifters, you've probably got a very small handful of exercises to be choosing and working on. So the next time that you see some fancy thing sort of popping up, or some fancy new exercise variation that just looks difficult or sort of like convoluted for the sake of just being convoluted, this is the logic that you can fall back on to ignore that nonsense. Just focus on the stuff that you know works and the stuff that's been proven, so that you can actually get out and make the improvements that you want to make. I hope that helps for today, and I'll be back in another video. See you later.